Greetings and welcome to Maisha Kazini. We are back with Mordecai Ogada looking at the events in Kenya and the world. Karibu Ogada.
Asante.
Yeah, where we are, it's been 3 days of maandamano. And what is your sense about the conversations that are happening?
There's a lot of confusion.
Yes.
But the 3 days is not the cause of the confusion. The 3 days has just revealed the confusion that was there.
Yeah.
That was there anyway. And people who have not been reading the signs over the last 2 years or something are now wondering what's going on. Because suddenly people are wondering, so why are you opposing the government? But the maandamano is not focused on opposing the government. People in government are thinking, some people are wondering if it's tribal, but it isn't tribal.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is just a loss of hope and a loss of understanding, the expectation that you are in a plane thinking it's going somewhere. And then suddenly you are told we are flying, we are not sure where this plane is going, we're flying over the ocean. And the sudden confusion, and people are throwing stones back and forth. In Nyanza, youths are blocking the roads and extorting money from motorists. People are not going to work. People are not opening their businesses. Meanwhile, the government is imposing taxes. And even in advance of judicial hurdles, they are already planning other taxes to be imposed. That means the depth of their ideas of what to do is just up to taxes. They have no idea of anything that can be done to guide this country other than impose more taxes. And you can't tax yourself to grow. It's just that you can't lift a bucket if you're standing in it. So this is so basic, but the government right now, it's just taxes. They're just going, what do we tax next? Milk, airtime, fuel, vegetables.
And what are they taxing for? What exactly is this money for? Since they are not even paying civil servants.
Yes. And counties are not receiving their revenue allocations. Civil servants are not getting paid enough. And the tax is being used just to fuel the gravy train, recurrent expenditure. It's just new cars. Yeah. It's just allowances. The pork barrel type excess that Ndi talked about some time back. He said that this is 30% of the Kenyan economy. It's a horrifying figure. But the taxes we are just paying tax to fund recurrent expenditure. Because strangely enough, government people right now are just moving around the country. Even the leadership, the president is always in some place giving a speech, addressing a rally. Ministers are always in some place giving a statement about this and this and this. So who's actually working? What have we done in the past 1 year? Because they've been in office almost a year.
Almost now. A year.
Yeah. And there's nobody coming.
Wow. So I want us to start with the reports about the heist, the fact that we are paying for loans that we supposedly borrowed, but there's no record of that money ever reaching Kenya.
Yeah.
And yet we are paying that money somewhere, and there's nobody telling us who is receiving that money.
Or
and
how much
nobody
it
wants
was.
to say we stop paying the debt. So how is this possible?
I think it's possible. It's one of those things that has happened because of just in my view, the sheer audacity of it. Because I listened to an interview some time back with Jimmy Wanjigi did on TV with I think Yvonne Okwara.
Yeah.
And he outlined it, and it was startlingly simple that these syndicated loans, all the government does is issue what is called a bond, in this case Euro bond or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it is issued and declared somewhere out there, and we are told it's been subscribed, as in someone has come up with $2 billion. One of them was $2 billion. I'm not sure of the amount. So we're told somebody has decided to lend Kenya that at some market rate, some commercial rate, not intergovernmental rate, because these are private lenders. We are never told who the person is, because I've been very discontent with the financial management of Kenya, and I've always wondered, who is this person who has so much faith to give 2 billion without asking anything about corruption, without asking.
It's private, so that we don't have to find out who it is.
Yes, we don't have to find out who it is, so we don't even know who it is. And it's all done out there, and then it's never attached to a project, because even the much maligned Bretton Woods institutions and governments, when they lend for something.
Yeah.
You see that World Bank has lent Kenya $5 billion to build Nairobi-Mombasa highway.
Mm.
So we know who lent, we know the amount lent and what it was for.
Yeah.
Eurobond, you don't know who lent. You hear there's an amount and you don't know what it was for. So you have no way of telling if someone just took that money as a whole as it was
and just walked out. With it.
How would you know? Because the World Bank one, if someone took it all, Mombasa highway would not be built. Then we'd say, World Bank lent us money for this highway. How come it's not being built? But Eurobond, if someone took it all, as Wanjigi alleges, how would you know?
I mean, he doesn't even need to allege the fact that there's no record.
There's no record. And the Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, recently said that her office does not have a figure of our public debt. They do not know how much public debt we have. They do not know. Officially, she said it in media. This is in the public domain. So what is she even auditing?
And that's the question I wanted to come to. 20% of students in the university are in business school. We have thousands of MBAs. Where are these people? Where have they been all this time? How come they don't flag some of these things? And why don't they tell the public what's happening?
This is the grave failure of Kenya, I think. Because we always like saying, because we love imperialism. We like saying that so-and-so is a good president. Look how whatever country X grew under his presidency. He didn't grow the country.
No, he didn't.
It's the professionals, the accountants did the accounting, the engineers did the engineering, the farmers did their farming, the teachers did their teaching. Everyone did their thing to the best of their ability. But in Kenya, in fact, we have a euphemism for it. We like saying work smart. Have you heard people saying work smart?
Yeah.
Don't work hard, work smart. Work smart means take shortcuts. When you are an auditor, you to be a good auditor, you must be able to show the bosses how to hide what they are stealing. Your job is not to expose them. Your job is to show them the upper andika hivi. This one we write it off as this. When buildings collapsed, I guarantee there was an engineer in charge. There was an engineer in charge. There was a bridge collapsed in Budalangi before it was even opened. Government project, there was an engineer. And I'm sure they had that big signboard saying, text so-and-so, engineer so-and-so, they are there. When CBC comes in and the education system goes to hell as it has, they are professionals. Professors, teachers from all levels involved in that taking it to hell. When our healthcare sector goes down, there are doctors and medical professionals. Every environmentally damaging project, there's an EIA signed by an environmentalist. Even ecologists have signed there to say this thing is okay. It's okay to pour oil into that river. That's working smart. That's the working smart we do in Kenya. So no one wants to produce any work, any ideas, and this comes from the top of government to the lower echelons of society. Everyone is trying to cut a corner. Everyone. And that is the problem. It's systemic. It starts from the top and it trickles down.
But you're not saying all have sinned as
No, no.
we should all repent,
I mean, yeah. Every society has a proportion of those kind of people. But in Kenya, the proportion is too big.
Norm. It's the
It's
norm.
the norm. Yeah.
It's not the exception.
Those who don't work like that are now the aberrations. They're the exceptions. They're the abnormal ones. If I give an example like Kenya Airways, every year it loses 26-30 billion shillings.
Billion.
And there's a big audit firm paid big money to write out that report on losses. They don't have any recommendations on how these losses can be prevented, and they present that, and it's declared that loss, and the government bails it out. So that loss is normal. I can guarantee you there's no day Kenya Airways will become profitable. Nobody gets fired. There's no consequence for making losses. So why would they make profit? Why? If someone was stealing, why would he stop stealing? If someone was misusing money, why would he stop? There's no consequences. We've now accepted that Kenya Airways makes 20-something billion losses per year. And that's now normal. That's our normal.
See, that's now why, from what you're saying, that's why even now when people are being shot in the streets, nobody's talking about the economy. It's such a weird thing. People are going with sufurias. They're talking about the fact that they can't make a living. But from media upwards, civil society, political class, nobody's talking about the economy. We are not talking about the structure of the economy. And worse, it's professionals who have facilitated this theft. It's us.
Correct. Yeah. That's why you realize even amongst the politicians, those who are very vocal, some who are actually physically out in the street and are very vocal about what's going wrong and all that. So-and-so's been shot in the street, there's tear gas. Whenever I see those things on social media, I always ask them, what have you said in parliament? There's a proposed salary increase for legislators. Have you opposed it? As you claim to be defending the poor man in the street, have you opposed that proposed salary increase? Or as you talk about the man in the street, what do you vote on the finance bill? Those are the things we need to hold them to. There are a few exceptions. Someone like Okia Omtata, if you look at his words in the house, his words outside the house, in public, in court, wherever, he's saying the same thing. There's I know where he stands. Even if you wake me up at 2 and ask me where he stands on this, I know. But these others they're collaborating at certain levels while purporting to fight on other levels. And I think the noise and the fighting is to take our attention away from the economy.
Yes. Yeah. That one.
Because it's like a consensus. And you see the media buying into the nonsense. I saw a headline the other day. I think it was Nation that said the fate of our nation lies in the hands of these 5 men. There was Raila, there was the president, there was Inspector General Kome, there were a number of other people. And I said, no, my life doesn't lie in the hands of those people. Neither does that of my children and all that. And the media feeds this narrative that it's down to those 2 people. And you see, even clergy now are coming up and saying, Raila and the president should sit down and talk. You can bring down all the issues facing us, societal and all these, spiritual, societal, to these 2 gentlemen. And are you imagining that the president doesn't have Mr. Odinga's phone number? Or vice versa?
Or that they've never talked.
I don't know who is imagining these things, but it's diverting us from the fact that production, Kenya right now is producing nothing. And I mean from agricultural production to ideas.
Nothing.
I saw a cabinet meeting dispatch the other day that resolved that Kenya government is about to start engaging in carbon trading.
I saw that. I'm like,
this carbon trading is a discredited circus. Carbon trading is rubbish. EU Parliament and various countries are just getting to reject it, and we are just taking it up now. Nobody knows what carbon trade is. It's a worldwide scam, but our cabinet has actually resolved a cabinet resolution. It made its way into cabinet papers. Not to mention that there's even a draft bill. And it's madness. So in Kenya, we only regurgitate or imitate. We don't innovate anything.
God.
That's why even when we say where we want to go, we never say we want Kenya to be like this. We say we want to be Kenya to be like Singapore. I don't want Kenya to be like Singapore. I don't like Singapore.
Even me, I don't.
Why don't we have our own targets? Why do we want to be like Singapore or like Korea? Korea doesn't want to be like Kenya. Or Singapore doesn't want to be like Kenya. What's this Singapore? Everywhere. Even government people are telling us, even government leaders, you hear them talking about other countries as examples we should follow. No country follows another. That ended with the Cold War when some countries were following the United States and some countries
USSR.
But now, jitafutie njia yako. That's what we should be doing.
Speaking of the economy, I mean, it's interesting you said that the media doesn't want to talk about it. But even the professionals have avoided that conversation because in their houses, in the professional houses, they still have that hierarchy thing.
Yes.
They still have it.
They still have it. Hierarchies, seniorities, licensing, registration, and these hierarchies beyond which people are not questioned. For example, even in the medical field, which I have some close friends and relatives in there, and if a young doctor, new doctor, has an idea, he dare not speak it in front of senior doctors. Good though it may be, but rank does not allow him to. It does not allow him to speak up on any of those things. We continue doing things the wrong way until the senior doctor either retires or dies. Then, if by the time he becomes a senior doctor, this young guy,
he's doing the same thing.
He's also in a position where now he's earning so much money just for his signature or consultation fee and this kind of things. Even if he has new ideas, why should he introduce them? The old ones are working fine for him. Those doctors reach that senior level until they stop being called doctor. They're being called Mr. They're back to Mr. So innovation, even where it exists, creativity in architecture, in agriculture, engineering, and all this, it will get you into trouble. I guarantee it will get you into trouble. And even our pupillage systems perpetuate this. Architecture, there's pupillage, just like law, medicine,
like law.
Engineering.
Law, they have to go to school of law. So the degree is not enough. Health doesn't cover school of law. At least the last time I checked. It was not covering school of law. So that means you have to have a certain amount of money to get to school of law. And then school of law, those exams, they fail 66% of the students.
And after you pass that, now you go to pupillage in a firm. And I read some blogs sometime back, the things these young lawyers go through during pupillage. You're making tea.
For pupillage.
So if that young lawyer had any groundbreaking idea about some constitutional provision or some groundbreaking interpretation of the Constitution, where will he express it, he or she express it? When serving tea? Or where are you going to? You won't appear in court. You can't even enter senior partner's office other than to bring in tea. Where are you going to air this idea? It will die. It will die with you there. And in time, you also become the cruel animal that you are seeing as well. So
and
it's
then
imperialism.
even if they decide to go on their own, it becomes another hurdle to set up a practice. See, they still have to pay sijui what. The other day
It's a hurdle.
I saw LSK people chasing after guys who had not paid their licensing fees. Not that they did anything wrong, that they had not paid their fees.
That practice.
So now young people who have help loans, they are coming from poor backgrounds. How are they supposed to start a practice?
And KRA is there waiting.
And KRA is waiting.
In fact, in all fields in Kenya, in all fields in Kenya, even on just the legal field, when I see people saying at the entrepreneurship, start a business, my God, no. It's like entrepreneurship, to start a business is easiest or more viable in Kenya when I'm working and I start it as a side hustle. You start a business and this business is meant to run itself, pay your rent, pay its license fees, and pay taxes. It can't work. It can't work. It can't work. And the people who tell young people to start businesses, etc., are people who are in jobs they have held for the last 40 years. Then you create employment. He's been employed for 40 years and he's not moving out anytime soon. He even owns myriad businesses. Some are billionaires who own companies, but they're still there as a PS or a minister. Because
that means their businesses cannot run on their own. It's clearing and forwarding.
Yeah,
as Joe said.
It's clearing and forwarding. It's clearing and forwarding.
There's no innovation.
It needs his political influence to get contracts, to get market, etc., etc. All the success of that business is guaranteed through his political patronage.
Lucky the poor young people who are being shot. They don't know. It's so annoying.
It's terrible. It's terrible that they're suffering in the jaws of a monster, and they can't really see the monster. Maybe they just see the teeth that are biting them, but they don't see the huge monster that we have going on here. And it's a monster that has no ideas other than to eat and eat and eat. Yeah.
Where do they take this money? Aki, where?
The amounts of money we talk about with these and these that Omtata was discussing over the SGR.
Yeah, where do they take it?
Those amounts of money, they defy description. And because we've normalized absurdity in this country so much. Even when I talk to some of these young people, few people can fathom how much a billion is. Shillings too. A billion. You have a billion shillings. Let's say you go and buy a nice house in a nice area of Nairobi. It might cost you 200 million. You still got 800 million. You go to RMA Motors, get a top Range Rover and all that, cost you 20 million. You still got 780. The amount of interest 780 is earning every month is far beyond what you can eat or consume. How many pairs of shoes you're going to buy? How much alcohol you're going to drink? How much food you're going to eat? A billionaire cannot eat any more than I can eat. And you realize people are stealing several tens of billions of dollars. I don't know what they're doing with money. I honestly don't know. I don't know what that, but the worst of all
is Mobutu is Zimbabwe. We have our Mobutus, our Bokasas. Yeah. We've been telling ourselves, oh, Kenyatta, I don't know, freedom, what. No, we have looters.
We have looters, and they're looting. There's looting that is physiologically driven, like someone's hungry, so you loot something, you get something to eat. This one of theirs is psychotically driven. Because honestly, there are people here now who their unborn great grandchildren will never have to work, but they're still hustling up and down, trying to loot more and more. I'm not sure what it's for. I honestly can't see it, because they're not. And the worst thing is that they don't have ideas. So they're not creating industries or businesses that can create jobs. This money is in accounts. It is sitting in accounts, in offshore accounts in various countries, or even within within Kenya itself. So it's just sitting there. It's not opening a factory where you can work. It's not farming. Even the application of that money is not to produce anything. It's like dead end money. It gets in there, and that's the end of that money. That $10 that gets into that account never produces another $10. It just sits there. And they keep.
They don't even buy
more.
maybe a castle, go to the Alps every winter. Nothing. I mean, that money never does anything.
That requires it requires sort of a level of imagination.
Yeah,
These
but
people
even
don't
that
read.
one,
they don't read. Where will you learn about castles if you don't even read? It's. I mean, look, because one thing, even a personal interest of mine, I'm very interested in cars.
Yeah,
I love especially classic cars.
Mm.
I'd think some of these people were creative if he had a collection of classic cars, but they have 50 of the same. They have 50 black Prados. They can't even imagine different cars. How come I've not seen any of them even buy like a Rolls Royce?
He'll
buy 20 Prados or 10 Mercedes Benz S-Class.
They can't buy, because if they were to buy a classic car for $200 million, see, it would stand out, and Kenyans would be like, Allah, you're spending our money on a classic car. But when they have Prados, people don't pay attention to the Prados because
there are so many.
Car. Yeah, and there are so many.
Yeah, but it shows the lack of imagination of, because even things like philanthropic foundations.
Do
you ever hear of these guys sort of paying fees for kids or giving a scholarship? Have you ever had Mr. So-and-so scholarship at University of Nairobi?
We are busy writing to the West for those.
Yeah. Or endowment of academic chairs in the universities. They don't do any of that. They don't do any of the things that people with imagination do with money. Yet having that money should give you the luxury of imagining.
I guess that's what Fanon was saying about in the Wretched of the Earth, how our bourgeoisie is a bourgeoisie without imagination. They started at the gosh.
They even dress the same.
Yeah, they are not stylish, by the way. Eh?
Have you realized they are all currently wearing these puffy jackets, the sleeveless ones? They are all wearing those jackets. All of them.
Oh, yeah, they are.
These guys, they live in the same places. They're neighbors. They live in the same places.
Amma, there was another, whose house was it, where people were saying the interior decor was so tacky. Very wealthy. Then I'm like, you can't get a Kenyan designer to do some very Kenyan kind of
imaginative.
Yeah.
He's got some Baroque things there.
Yeah.
He has some sculptures in front of his gate, which are actually
Roman ones.
Yeah, they're actually hollow, so they are sort of like molded ones. They're not sculptures. He's like, okay, so that's so you have money, and that's what you're gonna do. And that's the thing. And if these people had imagination, they'd be starting businesses. They'd They'd even start, you see, like some of the big billionaires in Tanzania, they're sponsoring sports teams.
Oh, yes. Ours, Pada.
They're
They
sponsoring
can't.
football clubs, like a football club that even now has a stadium of its own.
What?
And you think of how many young people he has employed as players, coaches, all these things, even a stadium, how many people it takes to make to run a stadium. And he's making money. It's not charity, he's making money. But here, no.
No, here, no, they can't.
No, they can't do that. They can't do that. No imagination. Bourgeoisie with no imagination. You don't see it anywhere. They wake up every day and tell us the same thing, and they do the same thing. And our media laps it up. Our media cannot find the right questions to ask these people. They cannot find the right questions to ask these people, and that's why even our things like, since we're so much in love with taxes, we can't tax these wealthy people because we cannot ask them. KRA they're busy taxing the little guy.
I haven't heard anyone talking about taxing the rich. Come to think of it.
Yeah, and you see, tax is a very powerful instrument in the hands of government. Although unfortunately here it's just used like to settle political scores. But even in the US, during the 1920s and 30s, organized crime was brought down by the IRS. Because these guys were like above the law. They could kill people and all that. But the one thing that, okay, so your account has X $1 million. Where's the tax returns? Or you're driving this $1 million car or whatever. Where's the tax? Can you show us the records? What you did to make that money, or who gave you the money, or is it a loan? Where's the loan? Here it's.
But the thing is, who are the accountants of those accounts? Who are the bankers? It's the middle class.
Yes.
So they are facilitating this theft.
Yes, they're the facilitators of this, because there's no grand corruption that can be done without serious collaboration of a bank, the bank manager or accountant. There is no cybercrime, like, these ones, these cybercrime that are done like on M-Pesa platform. You can't do that without someone in Safaricom helping you out. You can't. It's impossible to con someone through those M-Pesa cons. You have to have someone in there. So the professionals are all they're facilitating this thing while hoping one day to get included in the eating. So everywhere you go, like my sector, if you look at the conservation sector, I've talked to senior people in the sector at length, telling them how carbon trading is a scam, but they've realized, people are eating money here. So let's get in. Maybe one day we'll also get a piece of this thing.
Oh, that's what it is.
They're hoping one day to eat part of it. They won't get anything. They're hoping to one day eat part of it.
Gosh.
They've had these millions of dollars flying around now. We can also get something.
Oh, I thought it was that they were not understanding. Oh, they're hoping to also eat.
They don't understand. That one they don't. But they're hoping we will get something. We will get something. Tutapata ya macho.
So it's not only in the loans, even the roads, eh?
Yeah.
See, the roads are built by engineers.
Yeah, by engineers. Correct, and inspected and signed, approved.
And our poor kids want to become engineers. They are told, no, you have to pass an exam. Your degree is not enough. Pass an exam. And after you pass an exam, you have to work with somebody. I hear there are only 320 registered or some crazy number like that. Engineers.
Yeah. And you think the kid who was qualified to go and do engineering, Nini, that's a bright kid who has worked hard, meaning that he should have a bright future. His future is of trouble, of tears. Many of them quit. You find him now, he just goes become a farmer or something, totally unrelated.
And then we say, oh, it's because the universities are offering useless degrees. That's the problem.
Market nini, driven. So we should do market driven. What market? What market? I mean, it's literally, we are a clearing and forwarding. We are just clearing and forwarding. Yeah. A clearing and forwarding coming, you just need forklift drivers, watchman, clerk.
That's then like colonial times. That's what they were educating us for, to be clerks.
Yes. They were educating us to be clerk. And we've never changed that.
Okay, we haven't.
We've never changed that.
The degrees are bigger, but the job is the same.
Yeah. They created the tea industry and coffee industry to enrich England. And that's what it's still doing 60 years later. I mean, I don't know what recently the deputy president was out talking talking about coffee, wanting to streamline the coffee sector and all this. There's nothing to streamline. You just have to smash it all down and build a new one.
A new one.
There's no streamlining the tea auction in Mombasa. The tea auction is a cartel of thieves. Every cabinet minister who tries to streamline it is given either a seat at the tea auction or given a share of one of the tea companies to keep it quiet. But it's just what it was in 1940s when it was colonial.
1940s.
It's just the same thing. I mean, not even 1940s. Since
even earlier.
The tea industry in Kenya really took off 1926, 27, 28. The tea auction is just what it was back then. Yeah.
100 years.
The biggest earner from Kenyan tea is the UK. They earn more from our tea than we do. And then we say we are streamlining. That's why even when there's those sexual harassment things, nothing gets done. The tea estates are like, it's not Kenya. It's something out. It's some island there. Yeah. We said the other day, Kenya is just a mask. It's a clown in a mask.
And the way there are so many Western scholars here studying Kenya, I don't know for what. And pretending that things work. Actually, you know, when you think of it, like some of the studies I've read, they sound like Kenya works. It's so good at implementing policy. Yeah. That's what people say in the academic research. So people in fact, I think somebody was even saying on Twitter that they went for a meeting where the other African countries were saying, yeah, this policy we got from you people. You Kenyans, you are ahead in... What?
Ahead in where? And I keep asking people like, what is this? What is this ahead? What is this ahead? We are better than who? Huh? We are progressing where? Going where? In what direction? And I think is that Kenya, why it's so valued by Western scholars is that Kenya has very high propaganda value. Our clown mask has high propaganda value. Whenever the West wants to show that their intervention is a good thing for the world, you point to Kenya.
Gosh, now you've answered my question. You know, I've been wondering, why is there so much focus of Western scholarship on Kenya?
Yeah. No. Western scholars don't want to go and study Tanzania or Ethiopia.
No, they don't.
Because they are going to be studying ideas that didn't come from them. And if you come up, if you come up with good results from Tanzania, it will mean you are not required. You are irrelevant. If you go to Ethiopia and then you say you've come up, oh, this Ethiopian thing is working, that will mean you are irrelevant as the West.
But in
So
Kenya,
Kenya
we
is
will even show them, oh, we got this from you. So they will say, yeah, Kenya has implemented, they are doing
yes,
what we said.
and they've been doing it for the last 10 years successfully. They don't
Yeah.
mention that they've been subsidizing it for the last 10 years. It can't stand on its own. The agricultural sector is thriving and it's producing tea, coffee, and flowers. And we are not self-sufficient in food.
I was looking for why is there so much interest? I should have asked you, why is there so much scholarly interest in Kenya? Because, I mean, I get surprised. You're just reading some miscellaneous things, you see Kenya there. Then I'm like,
I've been into international conservation conferences and every you see some the discussion about maybe elephants in Tanzania. You see some Tanzanian guy talking there. Something about, I don't know, chimpanzees in Uganda. You see some Uganda guy. Kenya, it's an American guy telling you about the elephants in Kenya, in Tsavo. It's some British guy telling you about the elephants in Samburu. It's the KWS guys are in the audience. You don't see any. Yeah. Yeah. You hear about lions in Botswana. It's a Botswana guy talking there. That's what we are. We are this propaganda, this straw man or shop front dummy. We can be dressed in good clothes and then they say, you see how good that jacket is.
So actually what people are trying to do now, when you look at the media, the political parties, the civil society, I guess even the state, they're all trying to cover up these demonstrations to keep the story. And in fact, I think some people were saying, what is the world going to think of us when they see us?
Yes, you've seen the arguments on Twitter. Like, we've got to stop these demonstrations. The foreign investors and tourists will not want to come. And of all the people who are talking in that conversation, not one said we should stop these demonstrations because it's bad for our children, or it's bad for our families, or it's bad for us. It was all about foreign investors. What will foreign investors think? People are pissed off when demonstrators spoiled the expressway because there were some foreign leaders who had come. Oh, they'll see those dirty flower pots thrown on the tarmac. Shindwe. When will we start doing any damn thing for Kenyans?
Ourselves.
For our children? What will foreign... In fact, I've always wondered, who are these foreign investors? What is this investment they bring? What is it? Is this Kinajumia? What are these? Is this funny startups? What are these foreign investment? And someone was saying, yeah, no, they bring tourists have to come, they bring foreign exchange. Tourists pay in shillings. When a tourist takes coffee in Java, he pays in shillings. The way I pay. What forex are they bringing? As in, what difference, what benefit do they bring beyond what I, as a local client, brings? And I've said the only thing I know for sure tourists brings is that $50 visa fee at the airport. That's the only. In fact, some years ago, Balala wanted to waive it to bring in more tourists.
I remember you told us on this channel.
And I was asking, like, someone who can't pay $50, why do we want him here? Asikuje. If you can't afford $50, please usikuje. But it's just a neurosis. We don't understand it. We don't understand what we want. What do we want? We all know what tourists want, foreign investors want, all this. But what do we want? What do our children want? What do we want for our children? This is where that is an intellectual exercise to answer that question. And the Kenyans abhor that kind of intellectual work.
Yeah, they don't like it. Hey, the way I've been told things today, I've just seen, hey, this one, they are not going to think. They don't want.
Yeah, no one. They don't want.
The thing is also, our children have no jobs. They have
Yes.
no jobs. And
They
there's
have no jobs.
no hope.
Yes, that is the saddest thing. When you meet someone who has graduated or whatever, qualified, he or she is young, healthy, energetic, has ideas, and there's nothing available for him, and there is no hope. He cannot even foresee something coming next year. That person is in a very, very dark place.
My students tell me about those people. They tell me, oh, yesterday there was a guy 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. You can't get them off drugs or alcohol. He can ask you, you want me to stop drinking? Unifanye nini? Uko na kazi utanipa? And the businesses that could be employing them and all that, we are taxing them. We are taxing them to death.
I mean, there was even a judge at one point who told KRA, how does it make sense for you to go into a business, even if they're not paying taxes, you help them to pay the tax.
Then you shut it down.
But
you go in
you're
and
shutting
shut
it
padlock.
down. What is that cruelty? What is that?
Because it's that business, it's paying Kenya Power, it's paying salaries, it's paying the water bills, it's paying many things. It's paying many things apart from the tax dispute. It's doing many things, but you go and shut it down.
What is that cruelty? I don't get it.
It's neurosis. It's neurosis.
I think it's like in Kenya, people don't feel powerful unless somebody is suffering. Unless you can finger somebody until they suffer.
Hammer somebody.
Yeah, that's the only time you feel that you have an impact in people's pain.
Yeah. And that's why even in our discipline forces, we have this cascade of cruelty from senior officers to their junior officers and eventually to the public. I mean, I've even once asked someone, how come certain ranks in our discipline forces have this a sort of stick? It's because that's inherited from the days when the colonial senior officer, the Mzungu, used to accompany his orders with a blow to the junior.
The African junior.
Yeah. So we've kept the stick. So some of our police inspectors always have a stick under his arm. And it's got that crown on the top, but this stick was for certain orders were accompanied. Were accompanied by physical violence on colleagues, not on him. So now the colleague who's oppressed to that level, when he gets a member of the public, where?
This is so absurd.
We have no soul of our own. This is the problem in this country. We have no soul of our own. And there are little things that reveal it. Some years ago, we embarked on a very silly project to produce something called a national dress. It came up with a chimera. I don't know if you remember how ridiculous that thing looked. Literally, I think only Moody Awori could wear it without being laughed out of the room. Maybe because of his age and sort of charisma. But it was a ridiculous thing. And you wonder, so why did we want a national dress? And the countries that do have national dresses, they didn't just wake up one day and decide.
No, they don't. They did. It evolved. It developed.
It evolved from something.
Yeah.
And even now, as we see it, it's even still evolving. Like even I look at those Nigerian garments, they're still evolving. I see them changing. New ones are coming out. Tailors are concocting new styles. As we thought we can sit down one day and decide, yes, these are national dress and we unveil it. Some funny hat there with a cape. And
that's what even Joe was saying. That you can't, if you're not going to industrialize from below, you're not going to bring it from outside.
No. It never happens like that. Industrialization, it starts from production.
Yeah.
When you're self-sufficient and then you have excess beyond your physiological needs, then you want to process it, and then you develop techniques of processing it, and then you sell it, and you get that. That's how industrialization never comes from foreign investors. No. Foreign investors have never industrialized anything. Foreign investors can only create wash economies like the Bahamas, Switzerland. These are wash economies. London is a wash economy.
London is
it's just that there they call it financial services. They don't call it money laundering. Financial services. The city. It's money laundering.
Yeah, they are not producing anything in London, in the UK.
No, they're not producing. Yeah, they're laundering money. Yeah, as much as they vilify Russia, the Russian money is what supports the economy. All those oligarchs.
We learned that hollowness from them.
We learned that hollowness from them because it's based on status. I'm good because not because I do good, but because I'm said to be good.
Which is why we are so our society is so cruel, because we need to put people in their place.
Yes, that is imperialism, the one we talked about. Imperialism is all about your place and my place. Yours is down there, mine is up here by entitlement, not by deserving or work. No, not because I have good ideas or I work hard or I'm good, but it's because I am who I am. The confusion in Kenya right now is a burden of people who thought that there was substance. Those of us who knew there was no substance, it's upsetting to us, but we expected it.
Yeah, there's nothing that is surprising me at
all. Yeah. So sad when people come and it's when young people coming and asking me something that I know nothing about, and they think somehow because they've looked at me and they said, this guy looks organized or intelligent, or he seems to know what he's doing. So maybe he knows something about, I don't know, fish farming. You come and ask me about fish farming, and I don't know.
It's because the people who should have been doing that work are not doing it.
Yeah. People are given money, economic stimulus funds to dig fish ponds for fish farming, even in arid areas. Because somehow someone thought that economy of this country would be stimulated by fish farming. I'm not sure why, but this happened.
That's the strangeness about Kenya. People think that stimulus is from above and it's not about letting people grow.
Yeah. It's not about stimulating what's there. It's about imposing something. That's how even like in areas where people are doing, have been doing livestock production for generations, we suddenly think that we are now going to make them wealthy with tourism. Rather than strengthening that livestock production chain, we want to create jobs there with tourism.
This is an intellectual problem and a spiritual one, I think. Yeah.
It comes from a place of hatred for Kenyan people, hatred for common people. It's from an aristocratic place. You go to Samburu and you hate the Samburu people. You hate that they are rearing goats and camels and cows. So you want to impose tourism.
You look at them like an explorer, and then you say, what are these people doing with cows and goats? What is this? Then you say, I'm going to civilize them like Nairobi. Let's do fish farming. I saw some fish farming in Iceland. That's how civil servants think. I was in Iceland on a benchmarking. Let's put fish farming here.
Yeah. That's also to disempower them.
Yes.
Because the moment you take them out of their skill set, you take them out of their comfort zone, suddenly now you are powerful. If you start talking about livestock production, every young kid there is highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, highly capable. But suddenly you talk about tourism and mixing drinks at the bar. Suddenly he has to beg you to teach him. And that's why you want him, as a beggar.
Which is why these people who broke the dynasties, they don't want to actually empower the hustlers. They're still now going back abroad and trying to negotiate. What can you bring?
Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
going back to the people and telling them what
Yes.
is it that you want to do, we help you.
Yeah. And these are your constituencies. These are the people who on whom you rode to power. Now you are disempowering them and trying to empower foreign investors. But it's like there are too many. There are too many to disempower. I mean, how many millions of angry people are you willing to deal with?
But
and what are you going to do to them? Yeah? The point where he feels he has nothing to lose, that's a very dangerous guy.
Kenya has a problem.
You have a big problem.
There are people on the streets and we still haven't understood. And nobody wants to mention the economy. That is so bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the crux of the matter. If this guy had an opportunity anywhere to do anything, he would be there. He wouldn't be in the street. Zangapi.
Oh, yeah, he would be too busy.
I'll be busy in my butchery, cutting meat. I'll be in my garage painting a car, or my farm weeding my boga, or my boda delivering this, that, the other. Too busy.
And in fact, actually, you know, like the other time I was talking with Solomon Waliaula about football. That's the same reason why they sabotage football. Even football. They cannot allow it to thrive.
Even on the matter of football, Gor Mahia won the FKF League. The first thing was that they were ordered to play their CAF Champions League in Tanzania because there's no stadium in Kenya that met the standard. Now, they've been found to have violated some licensing thing. FKF has been ordered to disqualify the register them or whatever. So Gor now is yeah. And you wonder, like, if you didn't talk if you didn't have that conversation with Waliaula, one would wonder, are we mad that we can't do anything straight? Then after your conversation with Waliaula, then you realize there's a deliberate hand behind these things. We can't just be consistently doing things wrong. You know, if you did something wrong last year, this year you'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Look at the new, which thrived for some time. This the IRB Rugby Sevens team. These guys thrived. They even won the Singapore Sevens a few years ago at their peak. And they're competing against professionals. Yet I know these Nigeria and all these are guys working in banks in Nairobi. You know, they are not even full-time rugby players. But they worked that hard. And now, lack of support, Kenya now has been relegated from that IRB league. So that's over now. Remember what happened with cricket?
Oh, yeah.
These young boys from Gara who used to go to play cricket just because I knew a number of them. They'd say, like, we'd go and play because we knew after playing we'd get pilau. You know, it was me playing those Asian clubs.
Yeah.
We get pilau. That's how we started. They got to a point they're playing the World Cup. They beat the West Indies. Cricket now dead. Don't ask me about hockey.
Oh, yeah, especially the ladies. What they're doing very well. They were like the Africa champions.
Yeah.
Volleyball
has now started going down the tubes. And I can say for sure why Kenya succeeds consistently in athletics is because athletics ni wewe. Even without shoes, if you are the fastest, you will win. In fact, athletics succeeds in spite of government, not because of government. But anything that's a team sport needs support, we'll kill it. First of all, the guy at the helm will be some politician. Will be corrupting the money for it. And as usual, Ministry of Sports is always reserved for that guy who, it's like it's literally, if you look at the Kiswahili translation, waziri wa michezo is the non-serious guy. The minister of sports ni waziri wa michezo. We don't take it seriously. I mean, Nigerian government just he said the guy put together his cabinet and we put JJ Okocha in charge of sports. Instantly, that you know that this guy, he has his own fame and fortune and all that, and he wants to make a name. Look at how many former great sports people do we have in Kenya?
Kina Tergat.
Yeah, Kina Tergat, Masiga from back then, Africa Yange, and all those guys.
Yes.
Then out of all that, we put Ababu Namamba, with all due respect to him. But Injera was invited, he was honored in Fiji. Imagine that far away. They invited him and feted him and gave him on their walk of fame of rugby players. Amongst their stars, they put Injera. Amongst their stars, Waisale Serevi and those ones, they put him on the level where they put those guys. And that's what we are.
But you know, now...
And that's why every guy who excels in sports, first thing you do, recruit him into Kenya Police.
By the way, what is that about? That police thing?
It's limited.
I was asking people, and then they said, somebody on KOT said it's to control the sports person.
Yes, it's to
well,
limit your
how?
growth. Every single race you run outside the country, you have to ask the Inspector General for permission. Every single one. You're a police officer.
Oh no.
Same as those who are even in the military. You have to ask the commander or whoever. He has to permit you to go for every single race.
This is a sick country. This
Yeah.
sickness.
Yeah. That guy is so good, we can't let him continue being a civilian. You somehow persuade him and India police.
So that's why they never become like, they never start sports academies, scholarships, nothing.
Yes.
Coaching, what?
Yes.
Because now once they retire, you're sucked back into the forces.
Yeah, you start excelling kidogo, army, prisons, police, AP. They can't just let you thrive like that.
Now you're even making me ask, what is the education system for? What is it for? Is it like a pipeline for producing the elites who are not born in the into the dynasties or the hustler families, or what is it?
It's to create a hierarchy. The education system, it creates the laborers, the serfs, and it also, because imperialism also needs the civil servants. They're not the royalty, but they're the workers, but the senior workers.
Yeah.
So our education system serves to create that stratification, and this was informal, but CBC formalized it.
Yes. Yeah.
Now officially, we are now officially creating carpenter, plumber, accountant, doctor from school level. Those are things that would happen after you finish, depending on how you perform or what you did. That's what would determine if you end up being a doctor, engineer, whatever. But now we are creating that from school level. Very deliberate. We are creating hierarchies right from school level.
Yeah, Ogada, what are you saying? That we shall need a guillotine to end this system, because we have tried to convince people that we can't go on like this. Our kids are in the streets saying they are tired. But the middle class and the political elites are not listening. And it's not even that they're not listening, it's that they can't even understand. It's like
Yeah, they know
Marie
what's,
Antoinette.
yeah.
They really can't
Yeah.
understand why people are
Yeah.
asking for bread.
And why don't they eat cakes?
Why don't they eat cake?
And the thing is, it will collapse. It's going to collapse under the
It's
weight
not
of
sustainable.
its own idiocy and contradictions and decadence. My only prayer is that collapse is not a traumatic and violent event. What we are seeing, I hope it continues like this. What we are seeing now is a gradual crumbling. It's a crumbling when people are turning to politicians and sort of waiting to hear someone to give an idea on the way forward, and you realize he has nothing to say. Then you realize, oh, kumbe huyu ni mjinga tu. That's when you wake up. That's when you wake up. When people are on the streets for 2 days and they're waiting to hear the way forward from their perceived leader, and they hear nothing, then they realize, oh, so we are on our own. So we'd better get to work. We better get to the farm or whatever. So that's the sort of crumbling and collapse that I hope happens. But I hope it's not a revolution that gets bloody and all that. Because like we are talking about, you can't drive around Nyanza now because there are youths putting rocks on the roads and you have to pay money to get by. I mean, that is a bad, bad signal. I mean, they come up to you smiling to partake it, but that's robbery. They're robbing you. They're robbing you. He's smiling, but he's not pleased. Give me some money and I'll move the rocks. And you don't have the option of turning to go back, because if you turn to go back, they'll stone you or attack you. So in Nyanza now, people with cars, private cars, are parked in homes. You don't go anywhere.
What is the problem? Where is the problem?
You know, if you have a problem of poverty or even illness, those are easier to deal with, because poverty you can work and make sense. Illness can even be cured. This psychosis, how do you cure it? And the person who's sick doesn't even want to accept that he's sick. How do you deal with that? And the thing is, the worst thing about the government, guys, is that, you know, people have usually a recovery plan. That, you know, we want to do this during the some succeed, some don't. They don't even have one. Forget about the implementation or success or lack of success. They do not have any. No one is saying, we want to do this so that this happens. All they're doing is more taxes.
In fact, the
housing thing was just more taxes. They called it housing, but it's just tax.
It's just tax.
It was just tax. Because if you try to interrogate which houses, where are they going to be built, for who, no one had those. It was just tax. Why 3%? Where did you get the 3% figure? Why not 4 or 5? They just figured 3% is big enough to give them some money, but small enough that no one will rebel over it. I mean, we do know right now, if we are frank with each other, you know that the money you give to NSSF is thrown away.
Yeah.
You never see it. NHIF, you know the money you are giving to NHIF is just...
Because retirees are not getting their money.
They're not getting their money back. So
help people going to
those
hospital.
are things we just know internally that we are just giving. And all that kind of thing. So there's no plan. The plan is just to tax and eat.
It was a hollow campaign, but the point was to keep the machine going the way they found it.
And they did not realize that campaign of theirs was short-circuiting the machine.
By the way,
the machine is dead. It has an engine knock. Haiwezi enda. And these guys, and you think it's like the car has an engine knock, but you're taxing more people to just have more fuel in the tank. It doesn't matter how much fuel you put in there. The engine has knocked. It's not going to go. and you're busy taxing people, pumping up the tires, filling up the fuel, it's not going to go. It's not going to go.
Yeah, they didn't know what they were saying. They didn't know what they were saying.
It's a spectacle, a sad spectacle, but a spectacle nevertheless. As in, the finance bill is legally flawed. They already see it's going to be blocked by the courts. They've already come up, and they're not ashamed to tell the press that we have some new ones in the pipeline in case that one is refused. And you see, you can sense the move to try and turn people against the judiciary. And the judiciary, the reason you're paying these bad taxes is because the judiciary refused the other one. And that doesn't work. It didn't work for Uhuru Kenyatta. It won't work now.
It's like people have gone mad. It's a spirit, eh? It's like a spirit of, I don't know.
It's a spiritual problem, because if you loot this thing and destroy it, where are you going to go?
Where are you going? It's like the planet even. People are trying to say, you destroy, and then where are you going to live?
Where are you going to go? And they have this illusion of security within these cocoons. Like, I keep getting horrified. Every day I'm seeing so-and-so's security was withdrawn. And I'm keep getting horrified. You mean so-and-so was guarded by the state?
When they're shouting like that.
Yeah. You mean you're on the streets? They're even on the streets in these mobs, and there's a bodyguard here with him, a police bodyguard.
What?
And you think we are marching together? This guy has a bodyguard. You are alone. You definitely know that any bullet, whatever, will not be aimed in his direction, because the policeman knows his colleague is there. You might even hit his colleague. And you think you're marching together.
You were telling me before we started about Kenya Kwanza being an empire instead of a government. I just thought that was so interesting. Can you just explain it?
It's an attempted empire.
They
haven't succeeded, and I don't, in all honesty, I don't think they can. But they're trying to exercise power in a manner that is no longer possible under the new, partly the new constitutional dispensation, but mostly because of just how people have woken up. It's like a genie is out of the bottle. You can't put it back in. You can't put it back in. You can't wake up and declare, I'm going to do this, and it happens. They will be told, oh, public participation, this, that, the other, taken to court strikes it down. You bring up another. That's the same. It's the same thing. You have to listen. You have to listen to the people.
Yeah.
And they are missing out on that. So they're a hopeful empire, but they're going to end up being a failed republic unless they decide to embrace the republic status and try and excel at that. But it's almost like you are trying very hard to swim on dry land.
CBC.
yeah, it's that CBC thing, those kids. There's no water. Eh? You get up and walk, then you'll get somewhere. But otherwise, you're just going to end up with scuffed elbows and knees and dirty clothes and whatever. Yeah, that and it's such a simple thing. I can't fathom why
they can't get it.
They don't know why they're not getting it.
And then you were saying that empire is about the people serve you, but government is about you serve people.
Yes. And in fact that's even what my point was, is that they're trying to get us to serve them, to just pay taxes, and then they just spend.
Yeah.
They're not building agriculture, they're not building industry, they're not building business, but they want tax to buy new cars and pay their salaries and have 50 chief administrative secretaries and all these kind of things. So they want us to serve them. So if they decide to be a republic or a government and serve us, they will get somewhere. Because right now what they have is a blank slate. I mean, governments have been so bad. It's like you are getting into a place where the previous occupier was so incompetent.
Yeah.
You can't possibly be worse. So it's a good place to start. You can only move up. But they're rejecting that, and they're trying to be an empire. And empire is gone. Empire is gone. As much as and even the middle class that tries to bolster that. Our middle class is so small.
It's too small.
It is so small, it cannot build or support anything, and it succeeds. Yeah, our middle class is tiny. And eventually, even them, the tax is going to hurt them too. Because as was exposed during the COVID pandemic, our so-called middle class are a small step away from poverty.
Poverty.
It's the 3 months away from poverty. You get fired from a job today, you have to move your kids to another school, you have to move to another house, you give up your car, those kind of things. And the taxes are pushing them towards that, because something like this tax they want to introduce on use of cars, that's hitting the middle class. The people won't be able to drive. The people just won't be able to drive. It's just too much. They're bringing the cost of fuel, the car tax, parking, and all that. You won't drive. And that middle class on which they're trying to lean is a crumbling thing in itself.
Yeah,
no remorse
they are talking a different language, which is so bizarre. So bizarre.
Yeah, playing the violins as the ship is sinking.
Yeah.
That Gado's cartoon.
It was the one.
These guys are on a raft.
Yeah.
They're on a raft. They're on a raft, and that ship, they thought that ship, they've had to abandon ship. And they can't build another one from where they are.
All right. Thank you so much for your reflections, and we'll meet hopefully with better news the next time we meet. Yeah.
I mean, it will have to get better. I think as people wake up, I'm optimistic. It's a rude awakening, but people will wake up. Yeah.